Hey, and welcome to this section where you are going to create your first web app. And not just any web app, it'll be your personalized web app, unique just for you. And the technologies we're going to use in order to run this web app are super modern React.js, JavaScript, and CSS. And you can see all of these scary words that are surrounding the React, JavaScript, and CSS here are the concepts and technologies that we're using in order to render your web app in the browser. And the reason why I'm showing you this right now, which I can totally understand that it might seem scary, is to just make you comfortable with the fact that when you're working as a front-end developer, you're always standing on the shoulders of giants. And there's always a ton of things going on under the hood that you actually don't understand. And that follows me to this day. Today, even working in professional code bases, I myself constantly forced to be involved with things I don't understand. And that is just something you have to accept. And now you're really going to have to accept it because the code you are going to work on is this hideous, scary code I've written here for you. So while it's just about 80 lines or so, it probably looks frightening. But yet again, don't worry about that. We are going to limit the scope to just a few lines of code. And the point here is not for you to understand anything else than what you are just actually modifying. So the first thing I want you to do is, of course, to make this into your own website. Because, as I said, it's going to be your own personalized site. So how can we go about turning this into your site? Well, it says somebody's website here, and it has a waving emoji. And it turns out down at line 82, we can actually see that something is going on here. It says name equals someone, and emoji equals this wave emoji, which you can see in the browser. That's pretty cool. Perhaps you can just change this to your name and fill in your own favorite emoji, and that'll render on the page. So I want you to go ahead and do exactly that. And in case you don't know how to fill in an emoji with your current keyboard, you can actually just head over to getemoji.com and just copy one of these and paste it into the text editor. And once you've done that, hit the refresh button and see how it looks. So go ahead and do that right now. And when you're done, I will show you how I would do it as well. Okay, hopefully that went well. Here's how I do it. I'd write my name here, I'd remove this emoji, and fill in my own favorite emoji. Then let's run the code, and boom, it says Pier's website, and my favorite emoji is displaying. Pretty cool. However, it's still quite boring. We need to populate this website with some content, and in the next lesson, we're going to do exactly that. Okay, you can see here in the code that it says something with photos. So it seems like the code is set up so that it can display some photos on the website. However, it's not happening. And the reason for that is that we're not specifying what kind of photos we want to display on our website. And strangely enough, that is actually specified here on line 24, which is using a modern React.js concept called hooks. And I don't want you to worry a second about why this code looks as weird as it does, because that's something you're going to learn about later in the course. But I want you to set up the app so that it starts with a so-called initial state, which is whatever you fill in inside of the quotes right here. So go ahead and do that. Fill in a subject which you'd want your website to be populated with images of, and then run the code to see what happens. Of course, I will do the exact same thing when you resume back to this screencast. Okay, so I hope that worked out well. Personally, I'm interested in scary horror stuff, so I'm gonna write vampires right here, and then I'll run the code, and ooh, something has happened. Yes, if I drag this down here, I can see that suddenly my page is populated by tons of cool pictures of vampires. That is pretty neat. How did this happen? Well, here you can see we have specified something which says api.unsplash.com. And if you didn't know already, Unsplash is a website which contains free-to-use images. So what's happening here is that our app traveled over to the Unsplash app and said, hey, Unsplash, can we get some images of vampires? And Unsplash, kind enough as they are, said, yes, here you are. Here's some images. And then we took that data and rendered the photos out. So now you're actually using internet infrastructure in order to construct something which pulls data from a third-party source, that being Unsplash. And I have no idea what you added to your website. That's meant to be something you are interested in, but hopefully you found some nice pictures on Unsplash to display on your site. So with that, let's move on and create a little bit more styling so that the background, colors and fonts and everything better suit whatever kind of images you have decided to display on your website. Okay, so it's time to really personalize your website. And when you work with styling websites, you work with CSS. So I'm going to head into this style.css file right here. There you yet again probably are frightened by all the scary code that is displayed here. But yet again, I'm going to say just accept it and don't worry about it. We are going to focus on the body here. And more specifically, you are simply going to change the names you can see inside these var statements. These words that have two dashes in front of them. They're not scary though. They're pretty logical actually. You can see that it says background image and var wooden. And indeed, the background is pretty wooden. So now what I want you to do is change this to something else, to a background that you prefer more. And to help you with that, you can just click on the slide and have a look at the options you can choose from. Here's var bubbles, var smoke, var night sky. You get the point. So go ahead and do that. Click the slide to see your options, change it, and see what happens. Okay, hopefully that worked out well. Personally, I think my vampire images suit better this forest background than suits this wooden background, so I'm going to choose that instead. I'm simply going to, instead of wooden, write forest, and boom, there we are. Starting to look pretty good. Now it's time to change the color, because this white here doesn't really suit my vampire theme particularly well, I would say. Main color and then var snow, looking pretty much like a snow color. However, there are a ton of other colors to choose from, and all of them can be seen on this slide right here. So what I want you to do now is pick your favorite color and replace it. Once you've done it, I will do the same thing as well. So go ahead and do that right now. Okay, hopefully that went well. I'm going to do the same thing, and I'll choose this blood color, because that's obviously what vampires like. Blood, and boom, there you can see. Now notice that this didn't just change the color of the title, it also changed the border of the images. So that's the important concept of coding, which is that one variable can affect many things on the page. That is why we use variables. It's a concept you learn to understand and love as you progress on this coding journey. But as for now, let's just progress one step to the next lesson where you are going to change the font of this website. Okay, so it's time for the final challenge, and then I'm also going to give you 2 bonus challenges. For the main challenge, I want you to change the font family to one you like better amongst these right here. You can see how the fonts are and the names they have. So go ahead and change this. And also, if you're up for the bonus challenges, do the one right here. I'm not going to give you any more instructions. And also do this one right here. Here, I need to give you some instructions, because the first thing you need to do is remove these 2 lines here, 71 and 73, in order to kind of activate this code and not have it be grayed out like it is right now. And then change around on this here to one of the background images and see what happens. I can promise you it's pretty cool. So go ahead and do that, and then I will show you the solution as well when you return back to the screencast. Okay, hopefully this went really well. Let's head over to the fonts. I, of course, want to use this scary font, as that really suits my website as it is right now. To do that, I'll simply replace this word here with scary, and boom, there we are. As for the bonus challenge, adjust how many columns you'd like to have. Hopefully you understood that the value you were going to change is the column count right here. And perhaps you change that to something like 3, which actually looks pretty good, I'd say. So I'm going to stick with 3. And for the final one, you first had to uncomment the code below, which you do by removing the line 71 and 73, which now is 72 as I removed the 71, like that. And boom, there you see, I'm getting this image as the border. And that is because I'm using the var suites here. If we go back to the overview here, you can see that this is basically what's being used as a basis for my border. Now, I don't want those colors, I want something else. I think the night sky better suits my style. So I'll change this to night sky. That's better. Starting to look pretty good. Finally, this emoji here doesn't really suit my website anymore. So I'm going to head over to the index.js and change that to something more suitable, like this guy right here. Run the code again, and boom, there we are. Pretty cool. So now that you've learned how to personalize this web app, I want you to take another critical step towards becoming a web developer. And that is to become comfortable with sharing your creation. So if you haven't checked it out already, we have this community over at Discord with thousands of Scrimba students who share their code with each other, help each other out, make friends, and in general just helps each other make it less lonesome to learn how to code online. So what I want you to do is head over to I built this channel. That's a channel for sharing your projects. And then add a screenshot of your very first personalized web app so that the rest of the community kind of gets to know your personality a little bit. So since we're now at my personal web app here, you're going to have to redo all of these challenges yet again in order to make it your own. However, that's a really good practice for you. So just go ahead and check out all of the challenges which are spread across the various code files. Do them, and then after that, click this image and you'll be taken to the I built this channel, and then you will have, perhaps for the very first time in your life, personalized a web app and shared it with the world. And that's a huge step towards becoming a professional developer. So go ahead and do that right now. And then in the next screencast, Alex, my colleague, will tell you about the awesome live events we are arranging every week in order to help you stay on track on your learning journey. Okay, so now that you've built your first app and know how to use the Scriba platform, let's talk a little bit about how this path is structured. First of all, it's fully self-paced, meaning that you watch the lectures and do the challenges at your own pace. And you can do it part-time or full-time, that's up to you. However, you should at least spend 3 months completing it, because the concepts you are going to learn are complicated and they take time to really learn and internalize. So rushing through it serves no purpose at all. And actually, to help you stay on track and make sure that you progress regularly, I would recommend you to actually set off time in your calendar. Try to make it a weekly habit to book slots. For example, every Sunday, you can sit down, look at the next week, and see if you can fit in, for example, 3 slots in your calendar where you are to progress on the front-end developer career path. That'll increase your chance of succeeding significantly. And by succeeding, I mean becoming a front-end developer, professional front-end developer who breaks into the tech industry and gets a job. So while it might not be your favorite Sunday activity to book slots in your calendar, it'll pay off big time. Now, another thing we should talk a little bit about is that Scrimba, of course, is different than all other learning platforms out there, which you obviously know by now as you've tried our interactive screencast technology. Unlike all other platforms which use regular videos, our technology lets you focus on actually coding and not just watching tutorials and ending up in tutorial hell. So that's the first benefit. You actually code a lot more than you watch. Because obviously the only way to really learn how to code is to write a lot of code. And another pedagogical philosophy we have is that building projects is better than dwelling too much on the theory. Because if you build projects, the theory will come as a side effect as well. And building projects is just so much more fun. And it's also great for motivation because you get to understand why you are learning the technologies you are learning. Unlike, for example, at school when you learned maths and had no idea why you were learning it, which is a feeling I used to have at least, you'll get to see the technology in context, and that explains in itself why you need to learn them, because they are the enablers for the projects that you build. And as you know, you've already built one website, your personalized website that you were to share at Discord. So great job on doing that. You're going to continue with a lot more interesting projects where you build it up from the ground. For example, this blog here, which will teach you about HTML and CSS and also about how to make a site look good. So you'll level up your design skills as well. Further on, you're going to continue with this landing page that'll also need some JavaScript in order to make this form fully functional. Soon you'll know enough JavaScript to build your very first game, like this Pac-Man game here. And we'll continue with API-based apps like this random programming jokes application. And you're going to use the Punk API to create a little bear app, a meme generator using React.js, and at the end, you're going to build a full-blown Netflix clone in modern React.js using a database, adding authentication, making the design super neat, and in general, just have so much fun building a real project like this. Now, if we were to visualize this learning philosophy, it would look something like this. So we start with a little bit of HTML, move on to CSS, and then to JavaScript, and then you know enough to build your first project. Once you've done that, you return back to the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then you build a new project, which has a little bit of higher degree of complexity. And every time you go through this circle, you feel that superpower grow, and you take one step closer towards becoming that person who has the superpower of manipulating the digital world around you. And that is just such a great feeling. So with that, let's just continue on with this career path.